week on Country Report, the senior citizens of Manotick, they're cooking up a little business. We look at the legacy of our German community in Renfrew County, and we find some traditional furniture that's built to last a lifetime. Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Country Report. You know, this isn't just an ordinary piece of wood. You wouldn't go throwing this in your fireplace because this piece alone is probably worth $40. It's Honduras mahogany, the same as this wood behind me. It comes from northern Brazil. Now, it's used to make top quality furniture. There's only one place in Canada that you'll find this kind of operation. It's right in the heart of Napanee, just west of Kingston. The Gibbard Furniture Company, the oldest furniture factory in Canada. It makes solid mahogany and solid cherry furniture. It's the kind of product that'll last a lifetime, a product well known for its excellent craftsmanship. The tradition started 150 years ago in 1835 when John Gibbard set up a cabinet shop where the furniture factory is today. Well, by the 1920s, the name Gibbard was known across Canada. In the 1940s, the Gibbards sold the business to the Mcphersons. Bruce Mcpherson is the owner and the manager now. But the company name, Gibbard, stays on, and so does the reputation for quality. Gibbard furniture is traditional. It has 18th century English and French provincial roots. Good designs are used over and over again. In fact, some of the best sellers today were first made 25 years ago.
We felt and feel that if a design is properly marketed and it's a proven design, then why change for the sake of change? We'll build on the strength and strengthen those designs. And in so doing, we feel that we're offering our dealers and our consumer something that's timeless in design. It's something they can depend on and is in line with our philosophy of offering confidence and assurance.
Bruce likes to keep in close contact with his market. If a demand develops for a new piece, like a wall unit or large coffee table, then he'll put it on the drawing board. But Bruce has to be sure the Gibbard customers really want it. Good people to work for?
Yep.
Making good Gibbard furniture? Part of the success of this company is the good relationship between management and staff. This is a profit-sharing company, and that means everyone from owners to lumber pilers share in their successes. When a new product is being introduced, Bruce will call together as many company supervisors as he can. That's the way things are done at Gibbard. Everyone has a say in making top-drawer furniture.
We have checked a few tables when I was out last week, and there's no question that we need plenty of clearance to slide in and out, and that they must be on the track. The ones that I saw were not on a track. They were resting on the floor, and they were certainly marking very badly.
The Gibbard Company prides itself on using solid woods with no substitutes. There's no plastic in this furniture, and there's a lot of careful handling all the way down the line.
You're working with solids, you're as close to nature as you can get. I mean, the tree, as you know, wood will move depending on the amount of moisture content in it and depending on the thickness and the texture of the wood. So that it's very, very important for that wood to be air-dried properly. And so it has to be piled right in order to air-dry it right. It has to be air-dried right in order to be kiln-dried.
Quality starts in the lumberyard. The wood is piled carefully for the drying process. It can take several weeks to reduce the moisture content to just the right level. Then the boards come into the mill for the rough cut. Some are then glued together for panels. And then they go off to the planers to smooth the wood surface. Each process is a step closer to the sanding department, and that's where the smooth finish really starts.
If you go through our sanding department, you'll see stroke sanders where the flat surfaces are done, edge sanders for obviously the edge sanding, and then a multitude of little specialty sanders, and a lot of hand sanders. There's areas that you can't, for instance, the Queen Anne leg up around the shoulder, there's a lot of end grain, and if that isn't sanded properly, the finish will grab, the glaze will grab. So there's a lot of hand sanding in our operation.
In order to pay attention to all these details, you've got to have people who want to carve out lifetime careers, and that's what they do at Gibbard. More than a quarter of the employees have been with the firm for 25 years or more. Gail Edgar started in the sanding room when he was just 16. Now he's a supervisor, but he's not looking over a lot of shoulders to see what kind of work is being done.
We don't really have any quality control as such. I suppose the foremen are quality control and safety conscious, but every man is basically his own quality control. And that's so important. And if you don't give them some direction and give them some pride, then, you know, if you take the dignity away from a man, take away his pride, there's nothing left. So I think that they get some pride and they get some dignity around here, and they're used properly.
The employees at Gibbard have always taken pride in their work, but there was a time when this furniture wasn't selling. Canadians didn't always have the money to buy quality.
I felt that the people that bought right after the war, a lot of them got stung on either inferior furniture or through a dealer that didn't give them good service. And that give them another 20 years, they'd be buying for a second time, or their kids would be buying. And at that time, they'd be taking a longer look at their purchase, and also a longer look through whom they bought. I felt that Gibbard, as and when that came, should be there front and center. So it was really at that time that we took, you might say, a bulldogish approach to quality. I mean, even though quality was not a market at that time, it was more price and pricey things. But fortunately, as it turned out, we were right in the mid-'60s. Quality did come into its own, and it's come in stronger every year since then.
When you're buying good furniture, the quality is ingrained, but solid woods don't always match perfectly. That's part of the beauty of wood, but it's something a lot of people don't understand.
And we find there's two types of customers that are buying better furniture. One that buys it for the price, and they feel if I'm paying the most, then it's got to be perfect. And it isn't. They could often get what they've termed perfect in a low-priced arborite top is what they might call perfect. But then there's also the one that's buying it because they really know woods and they love good furniture, and they're very, very conversant with the fact that there are these variations that they can expect.
Otherwise, life at the Gibbard Furniture Company is very predictable. There's lots of work, the furniture continues to improve, and awards of excellence keep coming in.
Is there anyone else in Canada making better furniture than Gibbard's right now in this line?
I don't know. That's for someone else to. That's for someone else to make the judgment on. We feel we're making it the best way we know how. And we're told it's pretty good.
Since 1835, making it the oldest manufacturer of its type in Canada. But as Guy Lepage found out, employees and management at Gibbard have not let their #1 ranking jeopardize their quest for excellence.
Customers can enter any one of 3 Ottawa furniture stores which carry goods produced by Gibbard furniture shops and find little or no difference in the quality. They are either made of mahogany or cherry and take about 8 weeks to produce. A buffet alone can cost about $3,000, while a table and 4 chairs will also run about the same. Obviously, people who drop that kind of money are paying for more than pieces of wood. They are buying a reputation, one that began about 150 years ago here in the small town of Napanee. It was founded by John Gibbard, an Englishman who built a good reputation for solid mahogany and cherry products. His company flourished until the Depression forced him to shut down his operation. The plant was bought by a former employee, Jack Mcpherson, in 1940. His eldest son, Bruce, took over the presidency in the early 1950s, and with the help of many people, helped map a new direction.
Well, I think if there's any one key, Guy, would be our adherence to quality. I think one of the things certainly my dad and I recognized when we came back was the name. I mean, the Gibbard name had been good down through the years, and although it deteriorated somewhat in the 30s, and although quality didn't mean very much in the 40s and the 50s, we felt that was our forte, was the quality. And even in those years when quality didn't mean anything, we were really zeroing in on it, getting ready for the market that we felt was ahead. And I think they say the attention to quality, and also the people that we've had working for us. We've been very, very fortunate in the people that we've had, and I think they in turn have believed in quality. So it's been a pretty good team. I'd say it's probably a combination of good people and good furniture.
The highest team which he holds for his employees is mutual.
Well, I think mainly because the management's been really good to us all. Like, they treat everybody like family. Bruce Mcpherson, the owner of the place, he knows everybody's birthday, and he comes around and shakes your hand, and it's just kind of a family-type atmosphere.
That's a good place to work. I like what I'm doing. Good people, and you know, it's all pretty well out of the family's work here, and they work together. As I say, I've lived in this town all my life, and I know most of the people. So I know everybody I work with. I fish and hunt with them sometimes, and whatever.
Well, I've been content with what I'm doing here. I like what I'm doing.
You enjoy working for Mr. Mcpherson?
I sure do. He's a great guy. Couldn't get any better boss.
Once teamwork is established as a valuable tool, the quality of mahogany, which is imported from Brazil, and cherry, which comes from northern Canada and Pennsylvania, is next on the priority list.
Well, initially, of course, when you're making solid furniture, the handling of the lumber itself, the way it's piled, we've got to air dry it properly. The sticks have got to be straight. And then in preparation for kiln drying, it's got to be kiln dried right, or we can't machine it. All the way through, that's our theory, is each department tries to make it in the best possible way for the next department, or it comes back. Once you get into the machining, of course, our saws, our knives have got to be sharp. And we have an exceptionally good man in charge there. The equipment has to be kept in good shape.
The plant is a combination of modern, sophisticated equipment and hand methods dating back to the beginning.
Well, we have a philosophy here, I guess, that it's we'll try different things, different methods, whether it's materials or a way of doing things or equipment. And if it's as good or better, we'll go for it. If it isn't, we don't. And we feel by doing that it's we're ensuring the quality of the products. We tested different types of glues for a long time. And then we're conveyorized. If you go through our plant, you'll see that we're conveyorized in the rough mill and also in our finishing room. Now, we feel we can get as good a quality with conveyorization in those departments as without, and we certainly get much better production. But we don't feel we could put a conveyor. You can put a conveyor in our cabinet room, in our rubbing room, but that's where a lot of the handwork comes in. And different pieces require more time than others. And the only way that we could be sure of the same quality getting into each piece is to do it individually.
The final step in production is the one which Mcpherson says sets his operation apart from the rest.
We feel that the rubbing is important to get the luster of finish and the depth of finish that without the rubbing you just don't get it, especially mahogany. We're one of the few that make mahogany, and solid mahogany, and without the hand rubbing and the final cleanup, I don't think we can. Well, I know we wouldn't be putting out a final finished product. If you feel the luster of the finish and feel under the arms of the chairs and under the tabletops and the areas that normally wouldn't be touched, they can only be done by hand.
Furniture manufacturing is always the first segment of the economy to feel the brunt of a recession. During the latest slump, only 7 employees were trimmed from the 172-person roster, and many were let go because they weren't carrying their share of the load.
We feel our people are very, very important. We're very proud of not only our product, but our people, and they're sort of hand in hand, and we like to think we work as a team, and if we go through tough times, we go through them together, and we feel that what's good for the company is good for everybody. That's the way we work. We try and we have a bonus system which is based on production and profits, and in other words, we try and give recognition for work done. And if you're making quality furniture, I think you have to believe in it. We all have to believe in it, and we have to have that desire. We're fortunate to have a, and I think the fellows appreciate that too. We've gone through a recession, but we've come through it pretty darn well, and I think that's a credit not only to the company, but to the people in it, which includes all of the people in the plant. And I think that gives them a satisfaction. Say, would appear that they like working here, and that's pretty nice.
Like my hometown that I favor, that old place down the long road that I'm traveling to. There's the jokes at the barber, told by Cleve from the hardware, about the stories that always make the news. Uptown, wherever I may roam, I'll always have a place that I call home. Uptown, it's very plain to see, there'll always be a part of you in me.
Along Heritage Highway 2 near Kingston is the town of Napanee, a community whose origins date back to the arrival of Loyalists in the 1700s. Hello, I'm Barry Penhale. This magnificent home, the Mcpherson House, was built around 1826 on the banks of the Napanee River, where our story begins. The owner, Alan Mcpherson, known as the Laird of Napanee, was a man who took his politics seriously. Many of his house guests were prominent Tories of their time. In this episode of Sketches of Our Town, we will discover some of Ontario's earliest history.
You could get very lucky there.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I know.
That's the Provincial's instant win bonus draw.
Yeah, I know.
You could find a $10,000 check hiding inside.
Yeah, I know.
The Provincial's giving away 100 $10,000 checks every week from November 22nd until December 26th.
Yeah, I know.
Say, haven't I seen you here before?
You must be thinking of my brother.
Yeah, I know.
You got it. Hey, you're trapping.
Fujifilm gives you color pictures so true to life, it's a real breakthrough. Fuji's advanced technology has developed new Super HR film with ultra-thin color layers for sharp pictures with truer colors than we've ever had before. Get the newest breakthrough in color film, Super HR Film, and get super breakthrough pictures.
The signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1783 marked the end of the American Revolution. Britain ceded her interest to the newly formed United States, and the decision was made to evacuate the remaining British loyalists still in New York City. With over 40,000 already bound for Nova Scotia or the West Indies, it was decided that the remaining loyalists would settle on land west of Montreal. On the north shore of Lake Ontario, in the townships of Ernestown, Fredericksburg, Adolphustown, and Marysburg, the settlers began clearing the land for farming, land almost impenetrable with primeval forests. When crops were first being harvested, the lack of a grist milling facility became obvious, as the mill at Kingston Mills was alone in serving such a wide region. Two factors of importance attracted settlement to this site. The Napanee River was ideal for power to drive grist and sawmills, and it was also a shipping route through the Bay of Quinte to outside markets. This was the nucleus of industry that led to the formation of Napanee. The harbor boomed as products from the mills and the land were exported, and coal and manufactured items were imported. The paintings of Orville C. Madden have left us with a vivid account of activity in the community during the late 1800s. Depicted is a time in Napanee's history when schooners and steamboats were the chief mode of long-distance travel. The sprawling area of 1,100 square miles of Lennox and Addington County gradually opened up as settlement pushed higher into the Shield. Though thin soil and limestone bedrock was hardly the best for farming, a portion of the land did produce bumper crops of wheat, barley, and dairy products. By 1860, Napanee had become the county seat and a prosperous farming community. The market square and town hall were constantly a ruckus with buying and selling. The population from the surrounding county a ready audience for the politicians of the day. Importing business that commenced in 1854, the Daily Tea Company continued until the 1960s. The product became known throughout Canada. The Daly brothers, founders of the company, performed the tea tasting themselves, sampling and mixing their own blends. The coming of the Grand Trunk Railway 2 years later found Napanee on the Montreal-Toronto line and gave the community new impetus for growth. The availability of rail, water, and road transportation, coupled with water power, put the town on the map and ensured future prosperity. The early story of Napanee is evident throughout the community today. Grace of design was an essential part of the architectural vocabulary, evident in buildings like this sandstone post office constructed in 1891, and its classical style town hall. In 1976, the townspeople stood behind their sense of heritage when the decision was made to restore rather than replace this handsome structure. As a county seat, the town enjoys the presence of such buildings as the courthouse and jail. Constructed in 1864, they were built entirely of local limestone. Today, the jail is home to the county museum. The county registry office, built in 1872, is another example of the community's commitment to preservation. All three buildings occupy a park-like setting and form an integral link to Napanee's past. The central focus in town is the Napanee River, once the scene of violent confrontations between lumbermen and mill owners over the control of its flow. Along its banks is the Mcpherson house. Here, I met with Helen Hutchinson, who recounted some of the intriguing events associated with the home. Can you describe what you know of the Mcphersons who lived in this house?
Yes, Alan Mcpherson was the son of Lieutenant Colonel Donald Mcpherson, and he came to Napanee, and he came sometime around 1812 and rented the mill, and then he prospered. He had great ambitions, and he started renting the mill. Then he owned both the sawmill and the grist mill. He also built a distillery. He had a store, and it would be one of the first large stores in Napanee. And we think that Alan built his large house here about 1826. At that time, very few people were able to have a grand house or a mansion, as this has been called. And architecture is outstanding for that period of time. I think it's an established fact that William Gibbard was one of the carpenters who worked on this house. So that may account for some of the elaborate trim that is in the house. And the house was a center, a social center of social gatherings at the time, that it was at its best. And important people were entertained here, such as Bishop Strawn. And then there was another very important figure who was often here as a member of the family. When he was 18 years old, young John Alexander MacDonald's boss in Kingston, George Mackenzie, sent him to Napanee, or across the river, actually, in Clark's Mills, to set up an office. He was a relative, although not a blood relative, of Alan Mcpherson. John Alexander was family, and he was taken into the bosom of the family. And not only was he here a great deal at the time that he was an apprentice in Clarkville, but he wrote a farce called The Knights of the Red Cow, and he put it on in this house, in the ballroom, in the Christmas season of 1832. And Johnny was also, he made use of the Mcphersons later on when he went into politics. The Mcphersons were a great help to Sir Johnny during his political lifetime.
The town that he once called home, Napanee held a special place in the heart of Sir John A. Macdonald, father of Confederation.
Show me the way to go home.
The passing trains of the Montreal-Toronto line are a part of everyday life in Napanee. The view of the waterfalls below the triple arch stone overpass is among the picturesque scenes noted in Via Rail's promotional literature. In the age of feverish railway construction, competition among the communities vying for the railway was fierce. Two expressions originating at that time are still in use today. If a town was successful in their efforts to attract the railway, they were on the right track, and those that were bypassed considered themselves railroaded. Much of the history of Lennox and Addington County is preserved at the County Museum. Researching a community's past is a labor of love for me. One aspect of Napanee's history that caught my interest was the formation of the town's newspaper, the Napanee Beaver. To find out more about it, I met with Jean Morrison.
I was wondering, Jean, can you tell me something about the origin of the newspaper that you are now the publisher of? How did the Napanee Beaver get underway? When was it started and by whom?
Well, I understand that it was established in 1870, but I believe it was started in Newburgh, and then it was moved to Napanee later, and was called the Napanee Beaver. I believe originally, too, it was called the Addington Beaver, but there were many newspapers started, and very many of them didn't last very long.
But the Beaver was here to stay.
That's right.
Yeah. And the founders of the Beaver, who were they?
Well, Cephas Beeman really started it, and then he worked with William Templeton. And William Templeton kept on with the Beaver, and his family ran the Beaver for years until we purchased it in 1953. Mr. Templeton, the original Mr. Templeton, was a printer. Most newspapers had a printing department and a newspaper. Most of them actually were really printers and just carried on the newspaper to fill up their day and to help pay for the expenses. But in general, that's what they always did, had a printing plant as well as a newspaper. Very many of the newspapers were started for political reasons, so in that case, that was the main reason for having a newspaper.
What does it mean to you, Jean, to be the publisher of the Napanee Beaver? I'm sure it's a position of great responsibility.
Well, I certainly feel that it's a very important part of the community. And I don't know which comes first, whether if you have a good newspaper, you have a good town, or if you have a good town, therefore you have a good newspaper. But you often see if you have a very poor newspaper, the town itself is not very progressive and it isn't doing very well. Yes, I take the role of a newspaper very seriously, and we try to give the community all the news that they could possibly wish for, try to cover all events, and just generally do the best job we can. You know the people in the community, you meet them on the street, and if there's anything that's controversial or if you've made mistakes, which we do, you certainly hear about it, and I think it's much more immediate, which is good. I think it's much more interesting, I would say, than working on a city paper.
Is it still done the old way that people come in and put their money down and buy the paper right over the counter?
If you would come in on Wednesday morning, you would just be amazed, because if we're a little late coming out, people are standing in lines up. And, you know, that makes you feel really good to realize that they're really waiting for that paper. They have to get their fix for the week.
The town has maintained many traditions in the more than 150 years since its inception. Entrepreneurs that envisioned opportunities were for the most part successful when they acted on their dreams. One such individual, born at nearby Newburgh, arrived in the community in the early 1800s and began an enterprise that evolved into an industrial legacy. Bruce Mcpherson spoke to me of the story of Gibbard Furniture.
John Gibbard was the founder of Barry in 1835. He leased a small mill on the canal, which was part of the Napanee Falls and River in that year. And there were 4 generations of Gibbards, William Gibbard, George Gibbard, and Ernie Gibbard that succeeded John. John lived to be a great old age of 96. In those years, his early years, of course, he made fanning mills and actually small items that was really custom work and delivered in the immediate area. Also, in those years, the funeral business was very much a part of a furniture company, and John Gibbard and his son William after him made, not only operated a funeral parlor, but made many of the products that were allied to that particular type of business. They made coffins, and you'll see some of the old ads where they had shrouds on hand and would provide a hearse if necessary. So the Gibbards were in the company until 1940, and at that time, my dad, Jack Mcpherson, who had been associated with George Gibbard in earlier years, as sales manager and then general manager, bought the company, and there was a complete reorganization took place at that time. We had what some people refer to, I guess, as a family tradition. There are many brothers and fathers and sons that have worked in the company and still work in the company. We're quite proud of the people that we've had over the years. I figure I'm very, very fortunate, the good people that we've had over the years. And I think the figure from 1944 to 1984 of those that have retired during that period is about 48 that worked with the company over 50 years. So it is quite a record. And fortunately today we still don't have too many people leave. Quality isn't something you just say you're going to make. You have to. It's an everyday thing, and you've got to have great teamwork, which I feel we have, and the desire and pride. Pride really is what I think is mandatory as far as quality is concerned. But we start right out in the lumber yard. Lumber's got to be dried properly. It's got to be piled properly to be dried properly, and it's got to be dried properly to be properly machined. So it's up to each, in our operation, it's up to each individual department to do their very best for the next department. Well, we're making today, our line today is 80% solids, solid mahogany and solid cherry. The mahogany comes from Brazil. It's a type of Honduras mahogany. It's the finest mahogany that we can buy. The Latin term is Microphiliac Sipilia, and it's only grown in 3 different areas. Our cherry, we buy as much as we can in Canada and the rest in the U.S. It's becoming increasingly difficult to purchase. The other interior woods that we use for inside the cabinets we buy in Canada. Well, Napanee means I guess almost as much as Gibbard, Barry. I was born here, and other than about 8 years when I lived in Montreal, and during the wartime, I've lived here. My roots are here, and I think it's just the greatest little community. And the location is just a nice size, and so Napanee means an awful lot to me in this company, and that's why we advertise Gibbard of Napanee.
My visit to this community has given me a glimpse into the past of a town whose beginnings were etched from the rock and forest of the Precambrian Shield. Today, the Napanee, as the town was known in early times, owes much to the pioneering people whose perseverance and vision helped to make this a special place.
I'll see the folks up on Main Street who will always take the time for a story over coffee at the old Five and Dime. The flag on our town hall through the years has flown free, a tribute to our hometown's history. Our town, wherever I may roam, I'll always have a place that I call home.
Gibbard, a Canadian-born craftsman, leased a mill on a canal and began manufacturing coffins, doors, and furniture on a modest scale. Although the factory burned down a couple of times, it still stands on its original site. The business grew steadily because of the quality of the workmanship. Bruce Mcpherson is the president and has been working here since 1940.
Well, quality is first of all, I think it's an attitude on the part of the people. You've got to have people that believe in the quality. And this is where the good housekeeping comes in. It's got to be quality all the way through, right from the yard on through to the packing room. The quality begins with the design, the proportions of the design as well. But you have to have people that believe in it. And so there's the attitude, there's the materials, there's the workmanship. And there has to be the consistency in the product. The quality starts right out in the yard, where we pile it, because we're making solid mahogany and solid cherry. And for that reason, the handling of the lumber is very, very important. It has to be air-dried right. In order to be air-dried right, it's got to be piled right. And it's got to be piled right in order to be kill-dried right. The lumber then goes into the factory, into the what we call the lower machine floor, the rough end, where all the heavy equipment is, the tenoners, the stickers, where the processing is done. And then the lumber is glued up. It goes from there up into the upper machine floor, where the more intricate individual work is done on smaller machinery, the carving room, band saws, the profile sanders, it's all done there, all the more delicate work, you might say. Then into the sanding room. The sanding is very, very important. That's the beginning of the finish. There's as many as 4 or 5 different sanding operations. From the upper machine floor, we go then to the cabinet room where the assembly takes place. And that is where the cases are put into the clamps. The tops are put on, the drawers are assembled, and it's our assembly room. And from there to the finishing room, where there's 28 different operations. From the finishing room, we go down to the rubbing room, and that's where all the hand rubbing is done. There's 14 people in that department. Some factories today don't have a rubbing room. But that's I think an indication of the importance that we attach to the rubbing. 14 people there. Then to the packing room and trimming room, and onto the warehouse for shipping. Each part of the furniture gets individual attention. And when you go through the factory, you won't see inspectors. Everybody's an inspector. And if the theory is, if it isn't right, it goes back. So we try and make it right the first time. So as far as the importance, I would say everybody in the plant is important, and each operation is important.
How has the company changed since 1835?
In 1835, we ran the plant by water wheel, and today we run it with the most modern equipment. There were 4 generations of Gibbards, founded by John, then Tom, George, and Ernie. Our family came into the company in 1941. My dad to begin with, myself, and now I have 3 boys. So we're carrying on, and our uppermost in our mind is the quality of the product and the people that make it and the people we deal with. And must work because we're still here.
Can you tell me a little bit about the market you supply?
Well, our market, Kevin, is really confined to Canada. We have selected dealers across the country, dealers that we feel give good service to the consumer as we do to the dealers. And that really is the secret of one of our relative successes. We have, in addition to that, I should say that we supplied most of the embassies, most of the Canadian embassies. Now, that is furniture that we have shipped out of the country, and we're very proud of that. But by and large, we have just a few selected dealers from coast to coast. We're producing a design that lasts and a product that lasts. It's not a big market, but it's a growing market. We're very proud to be part of it because we're able to make furniture that we like ourselves, and the people that make it have got a lot of pride in it.
Good ladies. What happened to the money? First, to the ringleader, Barbara.
Well, originally there were 5 of us who won $50,000, and we split it equally. The 5th lady, Madeline Brady, couldn't make it today, but we all wanted to say hi for her. I actually used the money to take a family trip. The 4 of us went for a nice ski holiday in the Laurentians, and I bought an antique dining room set, and we just had fun with it.
Barbara was involved in family purchases. What did you do with the money, Lorraine?
Well, I sent my parents on a trip out west. I bought a kitchen table and chairs and a hutch and a stereo and a VCR, and I helped my boyfriend buy a bike so he could smash it up.
Lorraine's boyfriend survived the lottery win. What happened with you?
Well, actually, a little different. Just a few things for around the house, but I'm seriously thinking of retiring in a couple of years, so I kind of have my foot away for some pin money when I retire.
Karen, were there purchases on the horizon for you?
Well, actually, I helped my husband open a business, Chief Pettifer Heating, and subsequently I opened griddles and grates in Napanee, with fireplaces and natural gas appliances.
And what about the missing lucky member, Madeline? Where's she?
She's holding down the fort at the law firm.
Well, let's say hello to Madeline. Hyde's building was a jail. Today, it's the Lennox and Addington Museum in Napanee, with a mandate to document the settlement and development of this area.
The Lennox and Addington County Museum is located in a former county jail. The jail was built in 1864 when this county separated from the neighboring county of Frontenac. So it's, I think, very appropriate that the museum is located in a building that's associated with a very important episode in the county's history. And I think that that ties very well into what the role of a community museum should be. The role of a community museum should be to tell the specific story, the specific history and development of the particular geographic area that it's represented in. I think one problem with museums across the province is that they tend to be too similar. We all tend to be dealing with the same kind of pioneer artifacts. And I think that the challenge for the community museums is to address what is unique or specific to their particular area. So we not only represent a common culture, but we also begin to address what is unique to the various areas. The county museum has a very broad mandate. It covers from prehistoric times to the modern day. We have a number of Indian artifacts in the collection, and the development of the exhibits begins with those artifacts, and we move through the Loyalist time period. To do that, we use reproduction uniforms and accessories that were donated to us by the Toronto branch of the United Empire Loyalist Association. It's very critical to us to be able to interpret that particular period of time, since the settlement in this county evolves from that. The other exhibits deal with various parts of the pioneer heritage of the area. The courtyard space that we renovated as a result of assistance from lottery funds deals with the agricultural development of the county. We have also recently acquired an unusual exhibit for a museum. We've acquired the first tire off the lines at Goodyear. Goodyear came to the area a couple of years ago, and I think that this acquisition fits into the whole philosophy of a community museum. A community museum should tell not only the past development of the area, but also the ongoing development. It is appropriate for that particular exhibit that the case was made by the county's oldest industry, the Gibbard Furniture Company. So we have a combination of the oldest and the newest. And I think it's important for the exhibits to also make people aware that history is in the making even today.
How have lottery funds helped?
Lottery funds have assisted the Lennox and Addington County Museum considerably during the period that it's been open. About 7 years ago, using lottery funds, we were able to acquire a computer to help with the cataloging of both the artifacts and the archives within the museum. The most recent project that lottery funds helped with was the finishing of an additional 1,380 square feet of exhibit space.
Jane, do you feel lottery funds have had a definitive impact on your museum?
Lottery funds have certainly helped us upgrade the exhibit space to professional level standards, and as well they have helped us fine-tune our collections management policies and administration within the museum. It took us almost 10 years to develop the project finishing the courtyard space. And if it had not been for the lottery funds, we probably would still not have that space finished today.
Now, let's move on to our picture.
It is a very important town in this county. It's the hub of the farming community. It's also a very important tourist center. Napanee is located very close to the Bay of Quinte, and it's an area where tourists and farming families come to spend their money.
How has the new Goodyear plant affected Napanee?
The new Goodyear plant, located here a couple of years ago, has been a very valuable asset to this community. It's a state-of-the-art plant for manufacturing tires, and it's offered this community some very valuable employment that has been badly needed. Small industry also plays a role in this community, and it's an opportune place for small industry to locate, in light of the fact that Napanee is located between Montreal and Toronto, and also is very close to the border of the United States.
What about the people?
The people of Napanee contribute to a very warm and caring community. There's a growing number of seniors in this community, and just recently we experienced the holiday season, and this sense of community and caring was most evident at that time.
Beautiful homes, a town where almost everyone claims descent from the United Empire Loyalists. There's also a remarkable collection of reptiles, but that's next week. For now, it's good night to the town of Napanee, and bye to you all.